Every day is a new day, new chances, and new opportunities. But only one chance to live on this earth. One shot at keeping this planet nice. Because if we mess up, we don't just get a new one. We can't rely on our future generations to solve our problems. It is our responsibility to keep our world nice. Today I'm scheduled to meet with Mr. Bryce Conter. Bryce Conter is a hydrologist at the Rocky Mountain Environmental Association. He's worked in the hydrology field for 26 years, including 10 years with the Idaho Water Resources Research Institute. Today, while I interview him, he'll give me specific insight into the world of water pollution and specifically how we can prevent it.
Yeah, so hydrology is hydro from water and a logi from logos, which is knowledge. So it's just the study of water, and there's kind of two branches of hydrology. There's surface water hydrology, streams and rivers and lakes and reservoirs, and then there's hydrogeology or groundwater hydrology, which is water that's underground. And there are hydrologists who work in water supply, so for a city or a factory or a farm, they analyze when water is likely to be available, where it's going to be available. A lot of the work we do is in support of water rights. So if we have a client that comes and says, I want a water right to drill a new well, there are rules to protect the aquifer. And so they say, well, we have to analyze where that well is going to affect surface water, like streams. And in Idaho, a spring is called surface water because you see the water on the surface, even though it came from underground. And so then we analyze where that new well will affect that, and then we help people do things it's called mitigation, to keep the surface water body whole because of the impact of the pumping.
It's like, what environmental issues do you think you face, Colin?
Yeah, so the ones that I'm involved with here, with water specifically, environmental-wise, it's primarily landfills. All the landfills around here have permits and they have licenses, and they're designed with liners so if something leaks through, there's plastic, and underneath the plastic is like 2 feet of clay. But then all around are wells that are monitored, and that's what I was working on here when you came in, is data from those wells. They either twice a year or 4 times a year, they sample the wells and send them off to a laboratory and analyze all the stuff that's in them. And then what we do is we plot trends, and there are statistical methods to say, well, look, this is increasing, or this increased suddenly, and so that's how they look for releases. Yeah, so I guess what we're seeing is the regulations are a lot more robust than they used to be. It used to be, so I live out in Iona, out east of town, and it used to be every little gravel pit, when they were done pulling gravel out of it, they'd use it for a garbage dump. They'd fill it up with garbage, and there's a house that was built on top of a garbage dump, and then the material in the dump settled and collapsed, and so the house now, one end of it is jacked way up because it was built on level ground, and now it's on a slope, and the garage is way down in the bottom of a hole, and there's none of that now. Now the sites are studied carefully before they ever start building the dump, and then they're engineered very carefully, they're monitored carefully. They also monitor the decaying biological material produces methane gas, and it's not a health hazard so much, but it's explosive. So they have monitoring wells to detect methane, and if there's too much methane being generated, then they'll build an extraction system. They'll put pipes with little slots in them and put a pump to draw air through the soil, and it'll draw that methane into it, and then they run it through a burner to burn it off. And I think a really big landfill, they can actually collect that methane and use it, but we're small potatoes out here in Idaho. We don't have anything that huge that I know of. Maybe in western Idaho. So really the very best thing is be careful what you throw away. Don't throw away any paint or solvents or gasoline or the oil that you drained out of your car. You can go over here to the collection stations and they have places that you can dispose of those safely. Paint, if the paint dries out, then it's not a problem because the liquid materials, when they're dried out, they won't move. So you can pour it out on some dirt, or you can take the lid off the can and let it sit forever. You can stir kitty litter into it. Used motor oil you can take to the transfer station. Twice or 3 times a year they have collection days. So if you've got leftover pesticides or leftover solvents, all sorts of bad nasties, take them there and they'll be able to treat them and dispose of them safely. That's and then I guess the other thing is just don't generate more than you need. Don't buy some silly little thing that you're going to have to throw away a week later. Save up and buy a better one that'll last you a year, 10 years, depending on what it is.
So it's been about a week since that last interview, and today I have an interview set up with Roger Sauer. He is an air quality specialist, and I'm meeting him at Madison Middle School, and we're going to go and talk about air quality and how they monitor that in the state of Idaho.
Yeah, so for the state of Idaho, the DEQ, I work with the air quality monitoring. As what we do is we go around and do quality control checks and maintenance and repair, set up and tear down of all the various air monitors set out through the state of Idaho.
What are some specific environmental issues you encounter as you do your job?
Some of the specific ones are if people are burning on unfavorable weather days or unfavorable air quality days. We have basically overhead, we have what you might refer to as a air aquifer. Below ground we have water aquifers. Well, above us is our air shed. So it can only handle so much saturation of different kind of pollutants before we start getting them down to ground level, whether they're affecting like communities or population areas. So the biggest thing that we encounter is if someone happens to be burning something on a day when that air shed is already full, and then we start seeing impacts to our community.
Do you consider air pollution a relevant issue in our community?
I do. Air pollution is very relevant to all of us, especially to our sensitive groups like our schools, our hospitals, and elderly communities or people that may be suffering from asthma. They really feel the effects of it, more than just maybe the average person does.
What do you think the future of air pollution will look like?
Really, I have a really positive attitude toward the future of our air pollution, and part of that, Max, is due to generations such as you that are asking questions about it, they're getting involved in it, and with the technology we're getting now, we can get real-time information. This monitor right here is actually hooked to a phone modem, and it is relaying the information live every hour of what its readings are, and that information is available to the public at any time, and that makes us all a lot more knowledgeable about what we're doing and what impacts it's having.
How can a normal citizen in their community help with air?
That's a good question. One thing that, we live in a real farming and agricultural area. Our farmers and growers, we work hand in hand with them all the time during something they call CRB, crop residue burning. When our farmers are getting fields ready to plant, they have to remove the stubble. Maybe they have weed control, maybe they have insect problem that they need to actually burn the crop to get rid of it. We work with them in order to identify the best ideal days to do that in, not only weather conditions, but then again with the air shed above us, how much pollution can that handle without affecting us? So we help them identify times of day to burn and how many acres we can actually do without affecting our population areas. The other thing that just your average citizens can do, obviously try to avoid burning any kind of household garbage that can be recycled or taken to the regular, your municipal landfill. And then also any day that they're wanting to do some weed control or maybe some ditch burning or something like that, do the same thing our growers do. Check with the DEQ, always check with your local fire district to make sure it's safe, but then also, you know, be mindful of the air quality that day, if it's a good idea or if it could wait another day. Yeah, so this particular monitor, we have several different types of monitors throughout Idaho and even in our region. This particular one is a laser. It uses a laser to actually bounces off the particles as they come through the airflow, and then it counts those particles, you know, anything over a certain size. The main thing we focus on is PM 2.5. PM 10 is about 4 times smaller than the human hair. PM 2.5 is roughly 40 times smaller than the human hair. So we're talking, you know, very fine particles, but those are the particles that get stuck deep in the lungs, and your body's not designed to, you know, naturally remove those through coughing or any other way. So this is monitoring the current PM 2.5 right here at Madison Middle School. And is what it does is it has an internal pump. I could actually probably show it real quick, kinda. There we go, that'll get you a little bit. So it has an internal vacuum pump inside here, which brings the air in through the inlet. It has a series of kind of a labyrinth. We call this a cyclone, but it actually spins the air, and some of the larger particles will settle out. You know, the bigger stuff that we're not so concerned with. And as it comes down through here, right inside here is the laser bay, where as that airflow comes through, it actually counts those particles, and then it'll relay it back through the cellular modem, its hourly count. And then that's what populates the map. So you can actually see the different colors of air quality, you know, good being green, moderate being yellow, and it kind of goes up from there.
That's awesome. On the website, it shows the current air quality, and then it shows the air quality for the next 3 days. There's a map which shows all the places that they have air quality monitors within the state of Idaho, and this one in Rexburg down over here is where we met at. And based on the color, it shows the current air quality in that area. Alright, today at the Idaho Falls Zoo, they have an Earth Day celebration. So there's a bunch of different booths with a bunch of different people to talk to about really anything with environmental issues. There's like the INL booth here, and then a bunch of other ones, so we should learn something. Here we go. So after I first got there, I talked to somebody from the Idaho Master Gardeners.
These are examples of different plants that you can use for landscaping that will not use as much water. These are thyme. Those are my favorite because you can also eat them. These are little succulents, which are fun, but they don't overwinter well unless you protect them. The thyme will survive everything, including the apocalypse. It's true. We have a little flyer here that there's a QR code. I don't know if that will help you, but it has information on how to save water and have a healthier lawn. We have a group that will come to your home and do water testing to help you be more efficient with your water usage this summer as well. So if you're interested, contact Master Gardeners.
Yeah.
So my name's Brian Twining. I'm a hydrologist with the U.S. Geological Survey. So yeah, we're just here today. It's an Earth Day event, and we have a display showing different science that we get involved with. We do a lot of the work. A lot of our work is dealing with the groundwater issues, and we look at things like water quality. We collect data for in wells, looking at how things change with time. So we do, in some regard, look at how impacts of like how droughts affecting the aquifer, how land use, or how a lot of our work actually is at the Idaho National Lab. So we look at things like how the national lab and the facilities out there, how the water chemistry, if it's changing with time, downgrading it from the facilities and things like that. We also get involved with things like stream gauging and looking at rivers and monitoring the flow in the rivers and how that's impacted by things like snowpack. We also, part of our program gets involved with drilling monitoring wells, looking at geophysical data. We also do things like groundwater modeling, looking at using the data we collect to make sense of the data. So we have a group that does specifically developing the groundwater model for the Eastern Snake River Plain Aquifer system. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So
What are, just really fast, how can members of the community help prevent environmental issues with hydrology and stuff like that?
I think it starts by educating students and helping the younger adults make sure they're taking the right measures, like knowing what to put, doing simple things like knowing what to put down your drains, you know, not dumping oils or knowing how to get rid of things like batteries, knowing how to just taking simple precautions. I think if everybody does things like this, it'll help in the long run. It'll help keep the earth safer. So